Thank you. All right. So, are you guys ready to ask some questions today? I hope you have a lot of really good questions. This is important stuff. Raise your hand if you have questions. Really? We're going to get this party started.
Okay, it's been fun.
Good chat.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. It was fun talking to you guys yesterday.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice.
That was a lot of fun.
It was nice chat. Yeah. We talked a lot about, creating what I will call a masterpiece, and I hope that you all recognize it as such, and actually seeing something follow through in your life and seeing it go to the big screen and television to something that's so huge and being managed by such an amazing team, being produced by Baquero. Incredible. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, Terry? What's that like for you?
Well, as I said yesterday, it's pretty overwhelming. My vision of what it would be like to be involved with a TV show, or even a movie for that matter, was of a somewhat smaller scale than what this actually turned out to be. And seeing the scope of what was involved with the filming when we went over to New Zealand, I talked about that a little bit yesterday. One thing I didn't say yesterday was that when we looked around and saw all these trailers and all these 200 and some cars in a parking lot on a field there, I finally asked them, I said, well, how many people are working on this thing? And they said, oh, I don't know, 600 or 700 people. I was thinking more like 30 would be the number we would see. But, it must have been overwhelming for you.
It was. I mean, especially at the beginning, because coming from Spain myself, I've never been involved in such a big production. I mean, I've been in a lot of genre films, but they've mostly been European, and so they're not as big. And in New Zealand, I mean, I have to say, most of the crew was the same crew that did Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We also worked with Weta, so it was like massive, it was amazing, and it was a bit overwhelming at first because I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to do this for 6 months, and we shot with like different cameras, we had like amazing cranes, we had a bunch of people on set, but it was great, it was amazing, and believe it or not, we just all ended up being like a little big family. It was, everyone was so positive and so great about it.
You know what they had? They had a drone camera.
They did too.
One of these, not, this, that could fly up there and do all those overhead shots that you saw if you watched the show. And that was cool. I wanted to run it, but they didn't seem real eager to let me do that.
Drones are cool. Let's talk a little bit about the costuming. We didn't talk about that very much yesterday. We talked about preparation at your early call times. 3 a.m. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so that's the day on set. We'd be called at about maybe 3, 4 a.m. because the preparation was very thorough. We had hair in the morning, we had makeup, we had wardrobe, and it all took a lot of time. In my case, I wasn't an elf, so I didn't have to wear the prosthetic ears or any of that. But even just in my case, in Eritrea's case, she's got like all the braids and all the extensions and like all the makeup and then the wardrobe, which is customized to each of us, so we had to like put it piece by piece, and then it was very intricate, and it took about maybe for each of us 3 hours. So yeah, it was intense, and that's just the morning, and then we start at 7, so that's like a whole day then of like shooting and doing different stuff each day.
So what does talent do for 3 hours while they're getting prepped? Do they Instagram or?
That's why we have iPhones.
We just joked around a lot, and there was a great sense of like friendship. So we would just joke and prank each other and sit around and maybe snooze at times, and it was really relaxed. It was nice, I have to say, because it's not, as we discussed yesterday, it's not always like that. It's not always you actually click with everyone, and everyone is so positive about a project and so excited about it. So I have to say, in my case, I was really lucky, not only with the crew and everyone who was involved, but even with the cast. We all got along super, super well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, can I move back for just a minute to costumes? Because we toured the costume factory, I guess you could call it. And the costume factory was, it was bigger than this room. But it was filled with with racks and racks and racks of clothing because everybody has to have multiple costumes to wear because they're rowdy, apparently. And they get out there and they damage their costumes and then they have to replace them. You know, they can't stop shooting while you build a costume. So they have multiples of everything. And they have a shop that builds the weapons and does the jewelry and makes the hair and the ears and builds moss and builds, you know, all these different things. They have a greenhouse where they grew the flowers for the show. I mean, you know, this is truly overwhelming, but it was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun with weapons in particular because, as Terry said, we had different sets, and they went from like plastic weapons to more and more realistic sets of the same exact weapon. So we have like ones that we would just carry around so that if we fell over we wouldn't hurt ourselves, so they were just plastic and soft. Then we have ones that would look a bit more realistic that we could get out and shot but were never closed up. Then we get the ones to fight with and then the ones that were for close up. So it was just like this whole thing going on just with the weapons. So it was listening for wardrobe and for everything. Everything was so specific and taken care of.
I want to reassure you, though, that I was told that the real weapons are kept in this trailer area, and you have to sign out for them. So they keep them locked away where nobody can get at them, and then if you have to have one for a scene, apparently, you can check it out, but then you have to return it and check it back.
Yeah, I actually took a real one to the hotel just to rehearse and practice with my dagger, so everyone thought I was a bit crazy.
Where in a hotel do you practice with a sword?
Sorry?
I said, where in a hotel do
Yeah.
you get to practice with a sword in your room?
Well, in my case it was daggers, because it returns to dagger fighters, so I take my daggers and I just film myself making videos of just like playing around and practicing
Have you ever
tricks.
brought a souvenir, like a prop, to be like, this is my memento?
I always do. I love to always take props with me, whether it doesn't have to be necessarily a weapon.
She's carrying one now.
Oh wait, of each character I've ever done that in this little purse. No, but I always do. Like I always either sometimes just a piece of like jewelry or a wardrobe piece. I do have to say in this case it was actually a dagger in the Shannara Chronicles because it's so remarkable about Eritrea.
That's cool. That's really neat. I thought of something I wanted to ask you last
No,
night.
I don't have anything like that. No.
This is more about inspirations for writing. And this would apply to you too for acting. In terms of warriors, where do you pull that inspiration from? Like we can look at your work, we can look at the work of people before you and say that if we really dig deep, it goes back to mythology and different warriors and things like that. And for you, the warriors that you kind of bounce off of you in film, who really inspires you?
I'm a reader, not a fighter. So even though I was involved in a lot of fights when I was growing up, for some reason that I still don't understand, I read a lot of stories that have to do with military history and ancient civilizations and stories that, you know, legends and myths and that sort of thing, and you can read most of that and you understand quite a bit about it. It's actually what people are interested in. I'm going to assume that you're going to agree with me on this. I think what people are interested in is not necessarily the mechanics of the whole thing, you know, field stripping an M16 or whatever the heck it is, like Tom Clancy does, is of marginal interest to most women. But what you're interested in is the impact on the person who uses the weapons, and the relationships that the people have with each other, and how does it feel to be in a battle, and how does it feel to have to fight to defend yourself, and so forth. And that's really what people are watching for when they're looking at the Shannara Chronicles, is what's the impact on these characters and the way in which they interact with each other. That's that question.
Well, I'm a big fantasy fan. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings and I love all that. So to me, growing up, one of my favorite warriors was Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. And I really like lately Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings. I like that. I do have to say, for Eritrea in particular, people ask me, have I been inspired by a particular warrior or by a particular kind of fighting? And it's funny though, I was inspired by an animal, by a panther. rather than a particular warrior because of the way she's smooth with a weapon, when she's quiet, and she blends with nature. So that's
That's your spirit animal.
yeah, that's her spirit animal.
Do we have any questions?
Can I interrupt you for just a minute?
Sure, please.
We have, how many of you saw the show? Good. The rest of you can leave now. So we have somebody from the show in the audience today, and he came to a rather unfortunate end, but it's not my fault. I'd like to say that up front before somebody says, how come you did this? It's not my fault. You did honors.
Yeah, so we have over here James Turbina Brown that played Crispin Edensong, captain of the Elven Army, right there. He's hiding now.
Do you have anything to add? In real life. Okay. I'm going to invite you guys to ask some questions. And it looks like I'll just.
Okay, sorry. He was like, who's Ivan's spirit animal? And I'm like, I'm not sure. He said I'm a sloth.
Oh,
So that's my spirit animal.
You're a slow Susie, you just like to take it easy.
Yeah, it's opposite of Eritrea.
That's why she's so pretty. There's no wrinkles, nothing. She doesn't have any kids. Okay, I'm going to start with you. Yeah.
Is for Ivan. You remember one the scene from where you and the princess fall inside like a big hole? Remember right there? How many takes it take, for?
Yeah, when we fell into the high school.
Yeah.
So, probably not many because there was an actual fall. It didn't go into the actual high school because that was another set. But I do have to say we enjoyed doing most of our stunts, but there was an amazing stunt team. So with things that got a bit tricky, we would have stunties. I don't know, I do remember it was a quick one. We probably just, so that we wouldn't hurt ourselves, did it like 1 or 2 times, and then they had the stunties do it 1 or 2 times too, and then they probably just picked the best options.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I like your hair.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Ivana. Hi, Cherry. It's for both of you. For Ivana, what would her go-to karaoke song be? And for Cherry, like, what kind of music did you find yourself listening to when you were writing the books?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like to go a bit crazy in karaoke, so I go for like old school rock and roll and things that I can scream with. I mean, Guns N' Roses, even Nirvana's like
And Terry probably wasn't listening to Def Leppard while he was writing the show.
This is the easiest question I'm likely to get in a long time. I do not listen to music when I'm writing. I do not allow music or sounds of any sort. I'm very closeted away in my mind when I'm working, so I don't allow any noisy distractions if I can avoid them. But when I'm listening to music, I'm kind of fond of that song that Don McLean sang about the day the music died. After the end, when rock and roll was all done, in about 1962, so that for me is the music that you want to go back to.
Thank
Love
you.
those lyrics.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that I'd never even seen the Shannara Chronicles until about 5 days ago. And I completely fell in love with the character of Eritrea, the rover girl. And I really liked how it was acted out. And I was already going to come to this convention like a while ago. So I came not even knowing she was going to be here. And then I saw her, so I got like really excited she was going to be here. So my question was, this kind of outlandish, seemingly kind of renegade rover girl, kind of thieving, maybe abused, never knew her parents. How did you relate to that, to be able to portray that character so well?
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Well, I think that was one of the challenges, especially finding the balance between, as you say, her sort of badassness and her hostility, with the vulnerability, which I think came easier to me because I've sort of done more of that in my career. So, I mean, it was just about studying the character, reading the book, making sure I grabbed the essence of Eritrea, and adding a bit of seduction to the whole mix. And I think it came out, I mean, to me it wasn't that much of a challenge. For me the challenge was more the physical side, because being able to work in this character during 6 months allowed me to know her more and more. So I think it just sort of happened as I progressed through the shoot. It just came naturally.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet
Thank
you.
you. Thank
It
you.
might be worth mentioning that character that Ivana captured so well, I think, was written to be exactly what she portrayed. She had a father who was less than caring, shall we say. She had no mother that was discernible. She was the kind of person that if there was a fight, she didn't run from it, she ran toward it. And she was very good with weapons, and she early on makes up her mind about Will, you know, and it has to do with, he's kind of cute, I think I'll take him to bed. And that's the way that character was, very in your face and very sure of herself and very confident, but underneath dealing with a lot of issues.
Hi.
Hello? Hello? I want to ask you, what would be your dream role?
For Terry, right?
For you. Is there something challenging that you haven't done yet?
I
Then
mean,
I have another question.
I know it sounds cheesy. This is probably one of my dream roles because of the project itself, because I get to learn how to sword fight and horseback ride, and as I said, I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, so it's kind of, to me, it's pretty similar. But I mean, I'd love to, for instance, try comedy, which is a genre I've never done before. I'm sure it's going to be a challenge because it's so different from anything I've done. But yeah, I'd love to be involved in a comedy production like that.
And the Spanish artist, David Bisbal, do you like his song Ave Maria?
I do. It's old school. Yeah, it's a classic one in Spain. Yeah, I do enjoy him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? One of the things I wanted to first just say is that the cinematography on the show is bar none some of the best on television ever. I mean, that drew me in from the advertisements to the first episode, just wow. Some other things that I've seen that have had amazing cinematography, Pan's Labyrinth, by the way. I did want to ask a few more questions, one for Terry. So for you, my first question is, that was a gritty movie. Like, I know it's kind of like got children's elements, but that was a really gritty movie. How did that, do you think, play into, like, you know, kind of your character developments for this character, if it did at all, first? And then my question for Terry is, you know, and I actually read one of your books when I was first getting into reading novels in 8th grade, Phantom Menace, and so I want to know what it's like comparatively doing, like, on the one hand, like a novelization of a film, on the other hand, doing your own thing, like this with Shannara. And the last point that I'll make with that is, what is it like doing like a Lord of the Rings style thing in the future? Like, every time I watch the show and you see these modern elements, but then there's elves, it blows my mind. So that's what I'll put to you guys.
Well, in regard to the first question, whether I took anything from Pans to Shannara, I don't think I took anything specific because I did Pans 10 years ago, but I do have to say that to me, shooting Pan's Labyrinth when I was just 12 years old was like going to acting school, was like basically getting a master's degree because I wanted to work with Guillermo del Toro because it was such an intense shoot and because I was so young. So I think I took a lot of things from that movie. I don't know specifically, but I took a lot of things into just in general my career. It taught me so much. It's really what made me take acting more seriously and opened so many doors for me. So I think if anything, had it not been for Pan's Labyrinth, I wouldn't have ever done Shannara. I just wouldn't have had the opportunity to.
Thank you.
Things build on each other.
Totally. They're all little steps.
So, the first thing I'm going to tell you is to get the heck home and this is over with and read the other 35 books.
Absolutely will.
Oh, man. The second thing is that actually doing a novelization, if you're left alone to do it, is fine. If they mess with you, it's real difficult. George Lucas understands this. He did a terrific job of giving me a tremendous amount of freedom to write that story. I mean, you're given an outline of the story, you're given all the dialogue, although some of it needs to be embellished, of course, because you're writing a book. And so you got to just fill in the gaps. I wrote Phantom Menace in 90 days. One draft that was done, I gave it to them, they said, this is great. They substituted, things for ray gun and spaceship. A few things I didn't really know anything about. But they were happy with it the way it was. And it's very easy to do in those circumstances. If doing your own stuff is more challenging. You have to think about motivation. You have to think about, you're writing POV quite a bit of the time. You have to write about the character development because there's no visuals, of course, obviously. So it's a bit more difficult. You're doing all the things that the filmmaking does, You have to capture expression, you have to capture character, you have to capture weather, everything has to be, you're kind of a god in your own world when you're writing a book. So that is the primary difference between the two. I prefer the first because, of course, that's how I started out. I've only done the 2 novelizations. I probably will never do another one. There's no particular reason to. I say that now, but I suppose tomorrow I'll get something. Someone will call up and say, So that's the basic difference, I think. Did I answer all your questions, or did I miss
The last one, what is it like just dealing with a modern kind of theme with, typically you think of high fantasy, right? Lord of the Rings, you think of castles and this sort of thing. What is it like working with? Did that just like perplex everyone on the set? You got elves and you got helicopters and ruins.
No, they bought into it. They bought into it right from the beginning. There was never a suggestion that it should be anything other than what it was. And I wrote it to be this world of the future. I wrote it to be a world in which magic replaces science, and we drift back into a kind of medieval setting in many ways. But the old world is still there too. The old world was a world of science, and the world that was lost. So the only thing that was different was that I didn't do that for the first 6 or 8 or 10 books or whatever. I made it, you didn't know where you were before I wrote Armageddon's Children that cemented that in place. But the filmmaker at MTV that did this, and Alan Miles, who are the showrunners, basically said, we want to bring that forward right away. We want to make it clear from the beginning that this is a story that takes place in this world in the future. And you can understand that is something you have to do with a limited series TV show, just the same way that they want to shorten everything up. This is why the story gets changed around. In the book you don't even meet Eritrea until you're in 10 or 12 chapters in at least. But in the movie, everybody gets introduced in the first episode because that's what you do when you're trying to do a TV show with 10 episodes. Is you have to get everybody up front and start developing your story.
Very, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi.
I have a question. Would there be any more episodes? Like, you let me on what scene?
For me, will there be more episodes? You mean will there be a future season? There will be, yeah. The show's been picked up. There's going to be a season 2. And yeah, we're probably going to shoot that around December, January, so that's going to get started soon.
And my second question is, would you say your character is a savage?
Savage. In a way, she kind of is, because she has been raised in the woods. She's been raised in a really hostile environment where she's learned that she's got to be selfish to survive and take care of herself. So I think she's got an element of that one. But it's been so much fun to play with all those things and so many characteristics that she's got, and such a rich character that there's definitely many things to her. She's not a plain character. Thank you.
Thank you. We're limited on time, so one question per person, okay? And for you?
Hey, I've been a fan of Terry for years. I've been reading the books, and when you came out with, when you actually introduced the fact that it's the future, not the past, it blew my mind because I'm like, holy crap, all this stuff happened. And I was wondering, would you want to do Armageddon's Children as a show? And if so, do it anyways. I don't care if you want to.
Just do it. Sure.
I think it would be cool because I love
We
those
talk about
types
doing
of series.
spin-offs and things like that all the time, yeah.
Cool.
Terry, first of all, I'd like to thank you for writing your books. I remember, frankly, you weren't writing them fast enough back when I was in
I know, I was doing one book a year.
I'm fast enough for my liking way back when. Thank you. Long-term fan. And I love the visuals on the show. But I'd like to know what you think about how MTV is handling your literature, how you think they're handling putting it all together, I guess.
Well, I'm happy with it. I think there's some concern about the fact that I went with a network that is not particularly known for high literature or for adult fare. But, you know, I like a challenge. And I thought this was, you know, the commitment they made to this show was so strong that it was very difficult to just kick them to the curb and say, you know, you're not what I'm looking for. And the other thing you have to remember is that you're trying to get noticed. Well, here's a place where I could get noticed. You know, if I went with HBO, it would be Game of Thrones light. You know, or you go, you know, there's always competition. Not too much competition on MTV for a show like this. So there were real good reasons to go with it. And I think that it was the kind of thing where, well, you take a leap of faith that you're doing the right thing. Your writers tell you this is the way to go. Fred Rose says this is the way to go. You know, the executive producers all feel this is the way to go. It's pretty hard to then stand up and say, well, what do you guys know? You know, and mostly, the more we were involved in this, and the more I saw of the rushes of the show, and being on set and so forth, the more convinced I became that they knew what they were doing and that this was going to be something special. It's like the other gentleman said, it's, you know, when you see that cinematography and you see the countryside, you see the actors in their costumes, and you see that interaction, it's really astonishing. It's astonishingly good. You know, right away I said, well, this is, you know, this could be Lord of the Rings quality. It may not be the same story, but it certainly has those visuals there that everybody loves so much. So you go with what the strengths are, I think, in something like this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Goonies.
Yes,
Yeah.
Goonies. I just want to say, Mr. Brooks, I love your writing. I've been reading you since The Sword of Shannara came out. And I love the whole world that you created. And you did a wonderful job in bringing Eritrea to life, by the way. But I'm just wondering, is there any particular Olmsford or any particular character that you created that you really is kind of a favorite?
How's this going to end?
I'm just curious. Besides Crispin, I know you love Crispin.
Yes, we kill our darlings. I don't know. No, actually, I try not to fixate too much on any one character. When I'm working with a character in a storyline, I'm fully invested in that character and the surrounding characters. But once it's over for me, it's over. And I think then you move on and you're ready to do another book. And I've always said it's the process that interests me. Always has been. I'm assuming it always will be. And when the books are done, the books belong to you. Then they become your special connection with your special reading experience, and I let go of it at that point, and I just trust that you're going to find it as intriguing as I did. Yeah.
Well, I love what you do. I don't know if you listen to Weird Al Yankovic, but have you heard The Saga Begins that he did?
What?
The song, The Saga Begins, to episode 1, to your favorite song?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you heard it.
Oh, yeah, I know, I heard it. Yeah. Well, it's become my new favorite song.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question for Ivana?
Well, I think he's been waiting for a long time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm going to have to confess that I've never seen the show nor read any of the books. But
Sit down. You still seem like a very nice person.
But, for a first-time viewer, do any of you have any tips or anything you want us to stay away from? Like, was your hair not good in one of the scenes?
For what, sorry?
First-time viewers of the show or readers of the books.
I'm just going to say just go with the story. I mean, there's not much I can say. and try to enjoy it as much as possible. It is a journey, both literally and metaphorically. So just let yourself become part of the journey. And I mean, I've heard a lot of people binge it on the show, so I'm pretty sure if you like it from the beginning, you'll watch it pretty quickly.
Binge worthy.
Yeah.
I don't think with books and movies, you expect them to take you to another place. And if they don't do that, then they haven't done their job for you. So when you start watching something or reading something, it should transport you far enough away from the present life that you want to keep going with it. You want to keep going with it and see where it's all going to go. And at the end of the day, if you feel satisfied at the end, then you've been brought to where you should be. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
So enjoy the ride.
I'll just say, clear your schedule. Make popcorn and other things.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hi, this is Farah. This is Farah.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited were you when you got the role of the Robin girl? And did you ever get hurt on set?
That's a really good question, both of them. The first one, I was probably like 50 out of 10. And it's funny though because I actually had to fly. I live in Barcelona most of the time, so I had to fly to the States to audition just for a single day, just for this audition. And it was quite nerve-wracking because, you know, you invest a lot, even emotionally, because you're going off the script, you're just going to do that one audition, then you're going back home. And I finished the audition and I had my flight back all the way to Spain, so I was waiting in the airport and I got a call from my manager and he's like, Ivana, you know what, I'm really sorry, but you got the role. So it was I'm like, oh my God, and it was so exciting because of the whole situation. So I was probably at 50. And the other question, if I ever got injured, not badly, but I did strain my groin towards the end of the shoot because, you know, it was quite fatiguing. It's 6 months of shooting, so, and it's action-packed every single day. So, you know, your muscles get tired, and I did strain my groin, but other than that, there were no major things that happened.
Did you have to do anything at night, like, you know, days over, like hot baths, or do you have like a personal masseuse?
I couldn't. I wished, but you know, you gotta keep on shooting and you gotta keep on working. And I actually had a dance scene the day after. Some of you might know. It's an Utopian episode. I'm not gonna say much more, so I had to dance. And I was in a lot of pain in that scene. But we did it. Yeah.
You rocked it.
Talk about acting, huh?
Hi, my question's for Ivana. So, like, my favorite part of the show is the relationship between, like, Will, Amberly, and Eritrea. And I really liked that when Eritrea got to know them, her walls started coming down, and that's when we realized, like, who she really was. So I was wondering if she did meet Will and Amberly, how do you think she would have turned out?
That's a really interesting question because I do think Eritrea, from the very beginning, she knows she wants a better life for herself. She knows what she wants. She knows her boundaries really well. But I don't think, had she not met Will and Amberly, her horizons wouldn't have been expanded that much. And I think that's what basically marks a before and after in her life, because that's when she realizes that what she's been dreaming of actually exists, and that there are brave people out there, there are selfless people out there, and there's a whole world for herself to explore. So definitely, because she met Will and Amberly, she was able to embark on this journey and also get to know herself better.
Thank you. I think we can pound out the rest of these questions if we do them really fast. So go.
Okay, well, this is a very simple question. This is for the entire panel. Across the entire Shannara genre, which character do you feel most embodies who you are as a person? This is for anybody out there, or all three of you.
Like, who's my spirit character? Eritrea.
Well, embodies me, probably any of the, well, that's hard to say. You know, really, I'm Ben Holiday, which is the Magic Kingdom series. That's who I am. Thank you. Except I don't box. You know, in Shannara, there's a little bit of the writer invested in all the characters, so it's really hard to say, well, I was more this particular person than any others, but how about you?
Well, I have to say the most similar thing to a sloth is probably Manx, I guess. So, what's my spirit animal is Manx.
Good question, thank you.
Max is a dog, by the way.
This is for Mr. Brooks. I was wondering, what was the most difficult or surprising thing about having your works adapted?
I didn't get the last part of that.
About having your works adapted into a TV show.
What's the most important thing?
Difficult or surprising thing?
Well, I don't know. None of it is particularly surprising. Difficult might be you have to learn how to let go. I learned that lesson quite a while back, fortunately for me, so it was easy to do this time around, that you have to understand it's a different medium. So you're not going to be able to control how a lot of things go, and they're going to reimagine your work to a great extent. So you learn how to hold on to the things that most matter to you, and the rest of it you just trust the artists who are doing it to do the best job they can with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. For you, I've got like 2 minutes left.
Thank you. Which new characters can we expect to see in season 2 that we'll recognize from the books?
I could tell you, but I would have to kill you.
I'll take that chance.
I would kill him probably.
For you?
Are there any particular characters or stories that you'd like to see in the show, and how far in the future or in the past you want to see it go?
Great caller.
So, I'm not talking about any of this because it's still under wraps, and there's still a lot being done by the showrunners to decide where they're going to go and what they're going to do with it. And I just sit back like the rest of you and wait to see what happens.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Hi guys. So my question is for Terry. You're writing the final trilogy for your series?
Yeah, the trilogy.
Oh, okay. So even better. I was just curious what your feelings are about everything kind of coming to an end. I know you're gonna try and fill back in later, but
thank God.
Yeah, bittersweet.
You know, every year I expect somebody to come up and say, are you going to please stop writing these books? We've just had enough of it already. I don't know, it's very satisfying to actually, I guess I really should say, it's really a good thing that I might be alive to write the end of the series, so that someone else doesn't write it for me. I'm kind of grateful for the opportunity to get that out of the way, then I can die a happy man or something. I don't know. I think it's high time. I think it's reached its. I want this ending because I've thought about this ending for 40 years. So I want to write it, so there's a great amount of pressure to do it right. I think readers have a right to expect that the ending will match the beginning. The power of it should be of equal intensity. So I'm working harder than normal to get that to happen. I can't even tell you how hard I'm working, but let's just say it's the hardest I've worked since I wrote Elfstones.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming out.